You rarely get a chance to coach a guy that young that has absolutely no weakness in his game. Like, that was B. Roy.
That's a bad boy. And I think making it the second time just kind of solidifies yourself in terms of being one of the premier players in the league. Great poise, high IQ basketball player. Understands his size, understands his pace and tempo. I mean, he's ahead of his time.
Roy's probably the best player I've ever played against. To me, he's the best shooting guard. Not on defense now. His defense is kind of suspect, but he's the best player I played against.
When you think about what could have been, only a few names hurt more than Brandon Roy. A player so complete, so clutch, so unstoppable in his prime that people were already calling him the next Kobe. Then, in an instant, it was all taken away. His knees gave out before his prime even started. But for those few years when Brandon Roy was healthy, he was a cold stone killer. The question isn't whether he was good. The question is, how good could he have been? What's going on, everyone? My name's Valentino, and today we're diving deep into the career of Brandon Roy. A player who had everything: the skill, the composure, the killer instinct. He could score from anywhere on the court. He was an elite playmaker, and he had that rare ability to take over games when it mattered most. In just 5 healthy seasons, Roy became a 3-time All-Star, an All-NBA selection, and the undisputed leader of a resurgent Portland Trail Blazers franchise. He averaged nearly 19 points per game for his career, but his impact went way beyond the numbers. Brandon Roy was the type of player who could will his team to victory, even when nothing was going right. But knee injuries robbed him of what should have been a Hall of Fame career. So today we're going to look at just how good Brandon Roy was during his prime, what made him so special, and what could have been if his body didn't betray him. Let's get into it. Brandon Roy's story doesn't start in the NBA. It starts in Seattle, Washington, where he grew up watching the Supersonics. From an early age, Roy was different. He wasn't the most athletic guy, he wasn't the fastest, but he understood the game on a level that most kids his age didn't. He played his college ball at the University of Washington, where he became one of the best players in the Pac-10. During his senior year, Roy averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, while leading Washington to a 26-7 record. He won the Pac-10 Player of the Year and had scouts drooling over his basketball IQ and his smooth, effortless scoring ability. But there was a problem. Even back in college, Roy's knees were already showing signs of wear and tear. Teams knew about it heading into the draft, which is why, despite his talent, Roy fell to the 6th pick. The Minnesota Timberwolves selected him, but immediately traded him to the Portland Trail Blazers on draft night. And that's where Brandon Roy's NBA journey truly began. The Trail Blazers were coming off a 21-61 season, one of the worst in franchise history. They were in full rebuild mode, and Roy was supposed to be a piece of that puzzle, not the centerpiece. But Roy had other plans. The arrival. From day one, Brandon Roy showed the Blazers that they got a steal at pick number 6. In his first year, Roy immediately became the team's best player and most reliable option. He averaged 16.8 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, while shooting 45% from the field. But what made Roy special wasn't just the numbers, it was how he got them. Roy played with a patience and poise that you rarely see from rookies. He never forced anything. Every move was calculated, every shot was under control. His game was fundamentally sound. Picture-perfect footwork, a buttery smooth mid-range shot, and an uncanny ability to read defenses. He had this ability to slow the game down in crunch time. While everyone else was panicking, Roy was calm, ice in his veins. By January, Roy was named Western Conference Rookie of the Month. Then he won it again in February, and again in March. When the season ended, Brandon Roy was named NBA Rookie of the Year, receiving 127 out of 128 first-place votes. It was one of the most dominant rookie seasons in recent memory, and this was just the beginning. The Trail Blazers went from 21 wins to 32 wins in just 1 year. and Roy was the main reason why. Portland had found their franchise player. After his rookie season, Roy just kept getting better. In year 2, he averaged 19.1 points per game and made his first All-Star team appearance. His game evolved. He became more aggressive, more confident, and more willing to take over when his team needed him. But it was in his 3rd season where Roy truly arrived as one of the best players in the entire league. The 2008 to 2009 season was when Brandon Roy became a superstar. He averaged 22.6 points, 5.1 assists, and 4.7 rebounds, while leading the Blazers to 54 wins and their first playoff appearance in 6 years. Roy made his 2nd straight All-Star team and earned All-NBA second-team honors. He was now being mentioned in the same breath as Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and the league's other elite shooting guards. And honestly, the comparisons were fair. Roy could do it all. He could score from anywhere. Mid-range, automatic. Three-point line, money, driving to the rim, catch a body. He had the craftiness to finish through contact. His handles were smooth. His passing was elite. And he had this supernatural ability to hit impossible shots when the game was on the line. But what separated Roy from other great scorers was his decision-making. He never forced bad shots. He always made the right play. If the defense collapsed on him, he'd find the open man. His basketball IQ was off the charts. Greg Oden, his teammate at the time, once said, quote, "He would just do things that nobody was even thinking of. He was always 2 steps ahead." That's what made Roy so dangerous. You couldn't predict what he was going to do, because he was reading the defense in real time and making adjustments on the fly. In the playoffs that year, Roy dropped 27 points in a Game 1 win against the Rockets, announcing to the world that he was ready for the big stage. Though the Blazers would eventually lose that series in 6 games, Roy proved he belonged among the league's elite. The following season, 2009 to 2010, Roy maintained his excellence, averaging 21.5 points per game and making his 3rd straight All-Star team. And then came the moment that defined his career. The defining moment. It was Thursday, December 18th, 2008, Portland Trail Blazers versus the Phoenix Suns. This was the night that Brandon Roy put the entire league on notice. The Blazers were locked in a tight battle with Steve Nash and the high-powered Suns offense, and Roy was feeling it. Every time he touched the ball, something special happened. Mid-range jumpers, three-pointers, acrobatic layups. Roy was unconscious. By the time the final buzzer sounded, Brandon Roy had dropped 52 points. Yeah, I said it, 52. He shot 18 for 31 from the field, including 5 for 7 from three-point range. He added 5 rebounds and 6 assists in a 124-119 victory. It was the most points ever scored by a Trailblazers player in a single game, breaking the previous record, and he made it look effortless. Every shot was smooth, every move was calculated, every decision was perfect. That performance solidified Roy as one of the most dangerous scorers in the NBA. But his greatest moment was still to come. Fast forward to April 23rd, 2011, first round of the playoffs. Game 4 against the Dallas Mavericks. The Blazers were down 2-1 in the series, and getting blown out at home. By the fourth quarter, Portland was down by 23 points. The game was over. Everyone thought it was over. Everyone except Brandon Roy. At this point in his career, Roy's knees were already deteriorating. He was playing through constant pain, his explosiveness was fading, and there were real questions about how much longer he could keep going. But on this night, Roy turned back the clock. He dropped 18 in the fourth quarter. Bucket after bucket after bucket. Roy couldn't be stopped. With every basket, the deficit shrunk. 20 points became 15. 15 became 10. The crowd at the Rose Garden went absolutely insane. And then, with just over a minute left, Roy hit a three-pointer to tie the game. The Blazers would go on to win 84-82, completing one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history. Roy finished with 24 points, but those 18 points in the fourth quarter will be remembered forever. It was a performance that showed Roy's heart, his will, and his refusal to quit, even when his body was breaking down. Mike Barrett, the Blazers' play-by-play announcer, summed it up perfectly. Quote, Brandon Roy has just authored one of the gutsiest performances in Trailblazers playoff history. That game became known as the Brandon Roy game, and it would be the last great moment of his career. The fall. After that magical playoff run, reality set in. Brandon Roy's knees were done. He had a degenerative condition in both knees. There was no meniscus left. Bone on bone. Doctors told him he needed surgery. Not just one surgery, multiple surgeries. In January 2011, Roy underwent arthroscopic surgery on both knees to remove damaged cartilage. But even after the surgery, the pain didn't go away. The 2010 to 2011 season was brutal to watch. Roy's minutes were limited. His explosiveness was gone, and you could see him limping after every game. He averaged just 12.2 points per game that season, his lowest since his rookie year. The player who once glided across the court now looked like he was running in quicksand. And then, on December 10th, 2011, came the announcement that broke Portland's heart. Brandon Roy was retiring from basketball. He was only 27 years old. In his retirement speech, Roy fought back tears as he explained that his body just couldn't do it anymore. Quote, "I've been battling this for the last 3 years," Roy said, "and I just can't do it anymore. My knees won't allow me to be the player I want to be." The Trailblazers used the amnesty provision to remove his contract from their books. $64 million over 5 years, gone. Portland's franchise player, their leader, their future, was walking away. But Roy's story wasn't quite over yet. A year later, after undergoing experimental platelet-rich plasma treatments, Roy attempted a comeback with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hope was in the air. Maybe, just maybe, the treatments worked. Maybe Roy could recapture some of that magic. But it only took 5 games for reality to crush that hope. In his 5th game back, Roy's knee gave out again. The pain was unbearable. This time, there would be no comeback. Brandon Roy retired for good at age 28. 5 full seasons, 326 games played, 3 All-Star selections, 1 All-NBA second team, Rookie of the Year. A career that should have lasted 15 years was cut short after just 5 healthy seasons. Legacy. So how good was Brandon Roy actually? At his peak, Roy was a top 10 player in the NBA, and arguably a top 3 shooting guard. He had the complete package: scoring, playmaking, clutch gene, leadership. His career averages of 18.8 points, 4.7 assists, and 4.3 rebounds don't tell the whole story. Because in his prime seasons from 2008 to 2010, Roy was averaging over 21 points per game with efficient shooting and All-NBA level defense. He was one of the most complete two-way players in the league. If you watched him play, you knew he was special. There was something different about the way he approached the game. He wasn't the flashiest player. He wasn't doing crazy dunks or breaking ankles with every dribble, but he was effective, brutally effective. His mid-range game was automatic. When he caught the ball with space, it was over. And in crunch time, Roy turned into a different player. The moment never seemed too big for him. According to NBA stats, Roy shot over 48% in clutch situations throughout his career, which was elite for a shooting guard. But beyond the numbers, Roy's impact on the Trailblazers franchise was immeasurable. He took a team that had won 21 games and turned them into a 54-win playoff team in just 3 years. He brought hope back to Portland basketball after the Jailblazers era had nearly destroyed the franchise's reputation. LaMarcus Aldridge, his teammate and fellow All-Star, once said, quote, "Brandon taught me what it meant to be a professional. He showed me how to lead." Roy was more than just a scorer. He was a leader, a mentor, and the heartbeat of that team. When he retired, he left a void that Portland couldn't fill for years. In 2018, the Trailblazers retired his number 7 jersey, hanging it in the rafters alongside legends like Clyde Drexler, Bill Walton, and Terry Porter. Today, when you talk to players who faced him or teammates who played with him, they all say the same thing. Brandon Roy could have been one of the greatest shooting guards of all time. He had the talent, the skill, the intelligence, and the mindset to be a perennial All-NBA player and possibly a future Hall of Famer. But injuries had other plans. Brandon Roy's career is a reminder of how fragile greatness can be. We saw flashes of brilliance. We saw what he was capable of when healthy. But we never got to see the full picture. 5 healthy seasons, 3 All-Star games, 1 All-NBA selection, and a legacy that makes you wonder what if. What if his knees held up? What if he played 12 or 15 years instead of 5? Would he have won a championship with Portland? Would he have been a top 5 shooting guard of his generation alongside Kobe and Wade? We'll never know. And that's what makes Brandon Roy's story so tragic and so beautiful at the same time. He gave everything he had to the game of basketball. Every ounce of talent. Every bit of heart. And for those few years when he was healthy, Brandon Roy was absolutely special. So when people ask how good was Brandon Roy actually, the answer is simple. He was great. Maybe not for long, but he was great. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Brandon Roy could have been one of the all-time greats if he stayed healthy? Drop your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.